committed to treating every client with respect while telling you the truth. Lone Star Transfer has helped more than 40,000 owners exit their timeshares legally and ethically through a simple, proven process. First, you receive a complimentary case review to confirm eligibility. Next, an exit strategy is customized to your specific situation. Finally, the Lone Star Transfer team implements your plan, guarantees results. I have partnered with the owners for more than 5 years, personally witnessed the outcomes delivered to our listeners. No surprise fees, no unused vacations, no stress, peace of mind. So please visit LoneStarTransfer.com or call 855-551-7066. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. For the second time this week, President Trump postponed his deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
On Monday, the president extended his deadline until Friday, but now he's giving Iran another 10 days to cooperate and reopen the Strait of Hormuz by April 6th. He said he was delaying an attack on Iran's power plants because talks aimed at ending the war are going, in his words, very well. However, Iran continues to say it is not negotiating with the U.S. and has rejected a 15-point proposal from the White House. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Vice President J.D. Vance held the inaugural meeting of a new anti-fraud task force he's leading as the Trump administration seeks to show it's cracking down on potential misuse of social programs. Vice President Vance says the federal government for decades has failed to take fraud seriously.
What we're going to actually do is force the bureaucracy to take this seriously and work together as political principles to make sure that we stop allowing fraudsters to steal the American people's money. This is not just theft of the American people's money. This is also theft of critical services that the American people rely on.
President Trump has signed a promised executive action that will pay Transportation Security Administration employees after a deal that sought to do the same stalled in Congress. Trump signed the action Friday with an eye toward easing long security lines at many of the nation's top airports. Meanwhile, the House has rejected a Senate bill to fund most of the Department of Homeland Security. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 793 points, the Nasdaq dropped 459, the S&P lower by 108. More at townhall.com.
Sight and Sound Films presents
Benjamin Franklin.
Reverend Whitfield, A Match Made in Heaven.
Or just a deal made in a print shop.
Two voices.
My friends, do you want to be free?
One idea.
The Constitution needs to speak to the heart of these people.
A new nation.
You are the lightning bolt, George. I am just the lightning rod. And who is the source, Ben?
A Great Awakening. In theaters this Easter. agreatawakening.com for details. Rated PG-13.
You spent 30, maybe 40 years building your retirement. Are you about to watch it take a hit you can't recover from? Military escalation in Iran. The U.S. dollar under pressure it hasn't seen in years. Advantage Gold is offering a free gold investment kit and a free copy of economist Ken Rogoff's powerful new book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000. Don't wait for the next surge to wish you had moved sooner. Results vary. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert Meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. Mostly clear and cold overnight. We dropped to 32. A frost advisory in effect for St. Louis City and County. A freeze warning for the rest of the area. That goes until 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, sunny skies. Less wind, a high of 57 degrees. Partly cloudy Saturday night as we drop to 43. And then for Sunday, partly cloudy and warmer with a high of 70 degrees. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capastrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Ever feel like just a number in a waiting room? Hi, I'm Shannon Tribue, Director of Operations with Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Navigating the medical system can be a maze of stress. I'm your personal guide at Body of Health. I handle the messy parts of medical care, the logistics and complex coordination, both in and outside our walls, so you and Dr. Tobler, that's my dad, can focus on what matters most, your health. At Body of Health, you're not just a patient, you're part of the family, because that's healthcare the way it ought to be. To learn more, schedule a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty. The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I've just learned this week that Congressman Sam Graves, the representative of my 6th Congressional District of Missouri, my home, now 5 generations of Stegals have called it home. Sam Graves has decided to retire, and he's not going to be seeking another term this fall. This was very sudden news, and so what I'm about to say is relatively sudden as well. After prayer, believe me, a lot of prayer, and careful consideration with my family, I'm going to leave my show. I'm going to leave this microphone, and I'm going to enter the arenas today.
4:06 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. It's Friday, March 27th, and you hear the announcement from Chris Stegall. And those of you that are regular listeners of News Talk STL, you've heard that beautiful radio voice. He's been a guest of ours here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. He is with the Herzog Foundation. He is a longtime Kansas City area talk show host, and now he has a national talk show. And he is going to throw his hat in the ring because retiring Congressman Sam Graves has decided to step down. It's been rumored for weeks and months that Sam Graves may not run for re-election, but every time it was brought to him, he kind of said that he was. So this is a bit of a surprise. We'll get into that and all of the big stories today. If you are watching on the stream, you see that my partner Tim Jones is not in the studio today, but we got a regular almost back. He is my good friend, Jim Gwinner. Jim, how are you?
I am doing really good, Chris. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. For those who don't know who you are, tell them why you are qualified to guest host the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show.
Because I answered your phone call. All right?
Is it that simple?
It
Wow.
is. It's got to be. And I'm not a wallflower, but no, Chris, I've been on this a few times with you, guest hosting.
Yeah.
Co-hosting when Tim's been away and unable to be on the show. It's always an honor to be on the show. Big shoes to fill in Tim's shoes. Always fun to do it. Jim Gwinner, I'm with LS2 Group. We are a strategic communication firm based out of St. Louis. We're in about 14 states, and we run communications type projects all across the Midwest.
And the fill-in guest host pay is really good too, isn't it?
Man, I tell you what, the emos tonight's going to be wonderful.
All right, Jim, you heard that announcement. You are you've been involved in politics for a long time. You have ran campaigns. How much was this a surprise to you that Sam Graves, who's been in Congress probably 7 or 8 terms, is the chairman of the Transportation Committee, a pretty powerful committee in the House, has decided to step down? I have my reasons why I believe he's doing this. You give us your thoughts.
Well, I think what it tells me, he's been 20-plus years now, at least for a while, has a large geographic swath of, I mean, basically north of I-70.
We had him on a couple of weeks ago, and that's when I did research. His district is 23 counties. It goes from northwest Missouri all the way to Bowling Green, Hannibal area.
Right.
So he's got a huge district.
Yeah, he's basically everything north of I-70, by 20, 30, 40 miles, whatever. What it tells me, a standing chairman, he was the ranking member of transportation, then the House flipped 6-8 years ago. It tells me he's reading the tea leaves, and he doesn't want to be the ranking member in a Democratic Congress.
That was my assessment as well.
Yeah.
There have been 50 House members this year, Tim, I'm calling you Tim.
All right.
Jim, close enough, that have decided not to run for re-election. The vast majority of those are Republican. We had kind of a surprise announcement a few weeks back. Burgess Owens, Super Bowl champion, congressman from Utah, friend of our show. He's been on many times. He decided to call it quits. But I think you're exactly right, Jim. I think you look at the historical aspect of this, that usually the president's power, the party who's in power, they lose seats in the House. The president right now is not doing as well in the polls as he would like. The Iran war is kind of pulling down his ratings a little bit. There's a big issue of affordability that the Democrats are going to harp on all the way till November. And I think you're right. A lot of these guys are reading the tea leaves, and they've been in the majority for quite a while, and it's a little different being in the majority than it is being in the minority. And I also think they see, Jim, that if the House Democrats do retain power, get back into power, all they're going to be doing is impeaching Donald Trump and trying to stop every bit of part of his agenda. And a lot of these guys, they just don't want any part of that.
No, the mass exodus of a party in power is always outweighs when the shifting tides are looking like a chamber may flip. You don't see ranking members of the Republican Party when they were in the minority, or currently the Democrats ranking members, the ranking member of Ways and Means, ranking member of Transportation, whatever. They're not jumping ship.
Right.
You've got the more elder, senior, aged members.
Like our age.
Right, yeah, those 57 plus. You see those kind of members that are maybe stepping back, but you don't see somebody poised to take a chairmanship retire without reason. You do see a chairman often like, I've done 20 years. It's time to go to the private sector. It's time to retire. It's time to do a million different things.
Time to get paid.
Time to make the quan. Time to make the quan.
Exactly. And we heard Chris DeGaulle. He is threw his name in the hat for running for that seat.
Yeah.
I find it very interesting that we may have a second media person joining Congress. You remember Mark Alford from the 4th District? He was a longtime Kansas City television personality. He made the jump to politics. If you had to assess this race right now, who would you say is the front runner, and who are some potential people you think that would throw their hat in the ring for this seat?
Well, obviously, this is pretty quick. So, I mean, in less than 24 hours, I think Chris would be the front runner right now. Chris DeGaulle would be the front runner right now. He's got the name ID and the visibility, as opposed to a sitting state rep, sitting state senator, sans maybe a Cindy O'Loughlin or somebody that's in leadership in the Senate, but the rank and file state reps, very well known inside their districts, but most state reps don't have much name ID outside of their own district or Jefferson City. So I think Chris, by and large, given the fact he's on the radio, he's in media, and I think I first met him in 2008 working on a project when he was a co-host for something I did, and we brought former Congressman J.C. Watts to Kansas City. So he's been an established part of that community, that airwaves for almost 20 plus years. Then he goes national. I think he was out in Philly for a time. I think he's back in Kansas. He's been back in KC for a while. I've got to think that he today is the front runner. And, it's a long way. The only thing that, everything changes in politics. It's a long way to August. But does he have the backing to raise the money quickly? Does he have the name ID? More so than I think anybody else I've seen. And I think that's going to help him raise the money and get out there. And, he's a radio host. He's got a great engaging personality.
Got a great voice, too, for radio.
Wonderful.
If I say so
Yeah,
myself.
wonderful. And like us, great faces for radio.
Exactly. Little inside tidbit, as we said, he does have a national radio show now. I'm not going to name the network.
Yeah.
He is still working for the Herzog Foundation, and the chairman of the Herzog Foundation is Chairman Sam Graves' brother. I can't think of his name right now. Todd Graves is the chairman.
Former state party chairman.
State party chair. So I would think he would have a bit of a leg up when it comes to fundraising. I'm sure because they both are associated with the Herzog Foundation that Chris may have had a little heads up on this announcement that the congressman has decided not to continue.
It's possible. And whoever wins that primary, I mean, what are we, we're almost April 1st. So April, May, June, July, you got 4 months, basically, 4 months and a week until the election. Whoever runs that is going to quickly need to raise money and expand their name ID across a very large geography.
That is a huge district.
I mean, just trying to run a media campaign. I mean, I think it continues to trend Republican in that district, but does a moderate Democrat in this environment have a shot? I don't know. I haven't seen who some of the names are. I see like a Wes Schumeyer out of Mexico. Does he raise the money, or is there another name that may pop out of nowhere? I mean, I'm old enough to remember I grew up in Hannibal, which was the district. Yeah, I mean, that was Volkmer's district. I go off to Mizzou. I didn't know what a liberal or a Republican was, okay? It was just conservative
Your professors
Democrats.
taught you very quickly, though, what the difference was, didn't they?
I quickly learned the difference between a left turn and a right turn on campus.
Good deal. So the other big news of the day, of course, Jim, is the shutdown of DHS is apparently over. The Senate voted last night to fund the DHS. Still, ICE. And we were talking about this before the show. What's the C stand for?
We know Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Then you got Customs and Border Patrol.
Custom and Border Patrol and ICE. Their funding is going to be separated. But I think the most important thing here is that the TSA workers are going to start getting paid again. We've had massive amounts of TSA workers calling in. 450 to date have quit. We've seen the lines. Thank God I have not had to do any traveling these last 39 days because I can't imagine being in a TSA line for 4 hours or having to arrive 8 hours early for your flight. There's people that have like morning flights that are getting to the airport at like midnight.
It's amazing how we say all you want about all the problems in our own region. I saw a news story, one of the local TV affiliates talked about how good St. Louis was in getting people through compared to other cities.
Well, because we don't have much of an airport. You can roll a bowling ball down the center of our airport.
This last couple of weeks are spring break.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember flying out, not realizing it was spring break a few years ago, and going downstairs at American on the main terminal, and it was just wall to wall people, and there was no shutdown. But I didn't tell you, and I didn't do this, but I was supposed to be on the 11 a.m. flight back from LaGuardia today, and I couldn't get out there. One, I made the commitment to be here today.
Right. Well, thank you, Jim.
Well, and two, it's like I had just so many things coming with work, and it's like I just don't need to be somewhere else today. So I was worried about being able to get back, and when then all this starts happening, I worry even more. So I was glad I didn't. I don't want to leave you high and dry.
Speaking of LaGuardia, my wife was out of town last week. Her and her dad flew up to New York to watch one of my niece's high school plays. And she flew out of LaGuardia that afternoon. And later that evening, that's when the mishap happened there. So
Air Canada.
She was very happy that she did not get stranded there in New York because, that airport was closed down for a long, long time. And then reports surfaced that there have been something like 26 near misses at LaGuardia Airport in like the last 2 years. A lot of folks, of course, the investigation is still going on regarding that incident. But this has been a issue for years now that the TSA agents are overworked. There's been that time with the government shutdown where they weren't getting paid. And they're saying that some of these air traffic controllers, they're looking at 3 or 4 different screens at the same time trying to bring these planes in safely.
Yeah, that Air Canada accident hitting the fire truck.
Yeah.
Like
I just seen that video. I saw the video.
I did,
Oh.
and you kind of had to dig for it. How there were only 2 fatalities surprises me. How the firefighters survived
exactly
surprises me. I mean I think the two pilots are 2 in the cockpit, one navigator, etc. That was kind of surprising. Even looking at that, I figured it was going to be the firemen, but there's no GPS or transponder, disgronificator, whatever it's called. There's none of those things on the fire trucks so that the towers can see where they're at. The planes have this, altimeter warnings and, too low. We've all seen the movies. So there's all these different things that could have existed. And the report that I saw was that the air traffic controller was pulling it's because it was later in the evening. At that point, they do tend to pull like double shift because the traffic is lower. I mean, if you're allowed to follow 10 flights or whatever that number is,
it's crazy.
As the traffic dies down, it kind of makes sense they do a little more and are efficient.
All right, before we go to break, Jim, I have to get your thoughts, of course, on the war. You are a veteran. You were in ROTC. It apparently looks like the president may be sending ground troops into the Middle East. He is sending troops, may use them. We don't know. The president has offered Iran a 15-point plan to end the war, and Iran countered, saying that they want reparations, they want the war in Gaza to end, they want to have complete control over the Hormuz Straits, and they want to still be able to fund their terrorist proxies in the Middle East. Of course, we turned that down, but what's your thoughts on what's happening over there in the Middle East? Do you think this war is going to be over in 4 to 6 weeks, or is it going to continue longer, and how will that affect the midterms and politics in general?
Sure. So a couple of things that I've noticed about this. Well, first of all, the easiest way for a terrorist nation to end a war with a democratically elected government, two democratically elected governments between Israel and the United States, is lay down your weapons and stop trying to kill innocent people.
Yeah.
Okay, that's first and foremost. As you look at this, it started beginning, as an air war, and as you look at kind of where the attacks were happening, obviously our air forces and our missile defenses and our ability, we're not no ground troops. Our ability to go deep into Iraq in the early stages was limited. We had to take out their air defense. We had to take out their radar. We had to take out their satellites or their ground radar systems. Then you are able to go deeper into a nation. The thing with them lobbing missiles and lobbing rockets into Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Lebanon, Bahrain, Qatar, or they did to Qatar. Lot of missiles going into Israel, killing innocent people. A lot of innocent people getting killed everywhere. They need to stop that. Until they stop trying to retaliate and actually want to form a peace process. If they're attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz, they can't contain it. So as we look in how this evolves, I think it's, you listen to the Defense Department, you listen to the generals take guidance from the civilian authority that's democratically elected, but the generals, like the military, I always said, I'm not here as a peacekeeper, break glass, let me out, I go break things.
Right.
I think it does evolve. Now, 4 to 6 weeks from now, the Iranians are showing that they are very sophisticated in drone warfare.
Yeah.
That is something that is very new to most, the U.S. and Israeli. That's new. And that's something that they have developed a lot of technology. The missile technology, you've got the David's shield and David's sling and David's crossbow and David's abacus and all the different Davids. They're knocking them down, 95%. They're knocking down. But the drones are flying lower. They're harder to hit. That creates a bottleneck in the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, one proposal I saw was creating a canal along the Strait of Hormuz.
I saw that. We talked about that this week. Another Panama Canal-like deal that kind of just bypassed the Strait of Hormuz altogether.
Yeah.
All right, we have a huge show today. A lot of guests coming up. We're going to speak with Becky Arps, my wife. She's Director of Research for Americans for Citizen Voting. We're hearing a lot of talk about the SAVE Act, about voter ID and ensuring the integrity of our elections. Well, Americans for Citizen Voting has a constitutional amendment that's been sponsored by a Virginia Republican to enshrine in our Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, that only citizens can vote. We'll talk to Becky Arps about that at 4:25. Then Chris's Corner, who really runs St. Louis? You've heard all the issues with the police board and the police takeover and all that. I'll have a Chris's Corner on that. 5:06, we'll speak with Mitchell Baden. He's the CEO of Royal Banks of Missouri. We'll talk to him about all the banking legislation that's happening there in Missouri, and he's a big Mizzou fan. So
I'm happy to lead that facet of the conversation, MIZ.
So we'll ask him about Mizzou showing in the tournament. They made it, but didn't get as far as they would like.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, and doing double duty this week, we're going to have David Stokes. He's going to fill in for Patrick Toohey. He's going to give us a April 7th election preview, talking about the fire and ambulance district sales taxes throughout the region. And then it's Friday. You know what that means, Jim.
Oh,
that means Joey V's movies. The movie he's going to review this week is They Will Kill You.
I've seen the trailer.
All right. How many toasted razz out of 5 will Joey V give it? The latest horror film. It seems like he's reviewing a horror film every week now.
Oh, it looks so good.
All right, 424. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert Meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. Mostly clear and cold overnight. We dropped to 32. A frost advisory in effect for St. Louis City and County. A freeze warning for the rest of the area. That goes until 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, sunny skies. Less wind, a high of 57 degrees. Partly cloudy Saturday night as we drop to 43. And then for Sunday, partly cloudy and warmer with a high of 70 degrees. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here to sing the praises once again of my great friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic and Sports Performance. You can look them up online. You can make an appointment. Just go to cchiropractic.com. That's cchiropractic.com. Without going into all the gory details, had a major problem with one of my feet over the last couple of weeks with some horrible joint pain. I'll tell you what, it was when you have pain like that in something that you like have to step on and use every day, or like your hands or your arms or your knees, it's horrible, isn't it? I was like beside myself. I went in and the good docs, Dr. Fader, Benton Gorman, they all checked me out, and we got this little device on there. It was awesome, and 2 treatments, and I am almost back to normal. I cannot thank them or sing their praises enough. So if you suffer from any sort of chronic or acute pain, I want you to stop living that way. You don't have to. Go to Comprehensive Chiropractic. They also have the Studio Health and Wellness Center, licensed massage therapists. They have personal trainers. They'll help you with your nutritional needs as well, because one of the things that Dr. Gorman was pointing out, he's like, hey, do you think you have enough of XYZ in your diet? And I was like, I don't really know. He goes, well, why don't you take this supplement right here, try it out for 30 days, and I think it'll make a big difference. So from stem to stern, soup to nuts, whether you're talking musculoskeletal, whether you're talking diet, nutrition, whatever it might be, they can assist you and make a better you at Comprehensive Chiropractic. Comprehensive Chiropractic, cchiropractic.com. Comprehensive Chiropractic, cchiropractic.com for all your comprehensive healthcare needs.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Meeting you with a view to a kill.
That detention hearing just wrapping up moments ago. The ruling that came down is that Jose Medina, the accused killer of Sheridan Gorman, is going to remain in police custody for the foreseeable future. Ultimately, the state being able to make the argument that he posed a clear and present danger to others and that there was overwhelming evidence that points to his guilt. Now, this was also the very first time we heard from the defense and actually what they believe is the justification for this, that this very large and significant dent that is in his head actually came from a gunshot wound that he sustained when he was living in South America, along with the fact that he has the schooling of a 7-year-old.
429 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and that is the man that is accused of killing the Loyola student this week. I think the point that a lot of people are missing is that whether he had a gunshot wound or he has childlike capacity, he shouldn't have been in the country in the first place because Joe Biden allowed 12 million illegal immigrants into our country. A lot of folks are concerned that these illegal immigrants that Joe Biden has let in are going to be voting in the near or long-term future, and that's why we're hearing about the SAVE Act, of course, in Congress. But another issue, of course, is non-citizen voting on the state level. Right. And we have as a guest Becky Arps. She's Director of Research for Americans for Citizen Voting. They have been working for years on amending state constitutions to make sure that those constitutions say that non-citizens can't vote. They've been successful in 16 of those elections. And now they're expanding what they're doing. And they have had a Florida congressperson sponsor a bill to amend the U.S. Constitution to say that only citizens can vote. Becky, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So starting off, what exactly will this proposed U.S. constitutional amendment do?
So it's really simple. Basically, what it says is that only citizens of the United States may qualify to vote in any primary or election for president, vice president, House of Representatives, or Senate, and that the states will figure out how to make that happen.
So federal elections, only citizens. States do what they want to do. Seems logical.
Yeah, right now there's a bit of a loophole because in the Article 1, Section 2, House of Representatives, it says that anybody that can vote in your state legislative body can vote for the House of Representatives.
Oh, harkening back to when the legislators picked the senators, et cetera.
And the 17th Amendment says anybody that can vote for Senate, anybody that can vote for the legislature in your state can vote for Senate, and the same with the electors for the president. So if any state allows a non-citizen to vote for their legislature, instantaneously they can vote for House, Senate, and president.
So you're telling me that since 1787, the first draft of the Constitution, the Articles, the Bill of Rights, and all 26 amendments to the Constitution, 27?
Sounds good to me. I think 27.
27. I always forget. It's something Gerald Ford passed. Are you meaning to tell me they haven't had perfection and have had to evolve this Constitution over 250 years and had to figure out how to not double talk in what they write?
Well, they've been very simple in it.
Yeah.
They send it back to the states,
which
we really appreciate because that's how it should be done.
Yeah.
What they didn't realize was that the states might allow a non-citizen to vote legally for the legislature. And people are just like, oh, that'll never happen.
Mhm.
But in 2023, somebody filed a bill in Connecticut. And from 1999 to 2017, somebody filed a bill every year in New York State to allow non-citizens to vote in their legislature. Now, I'm sure they didn't want to allow the non-citizens to vote for federal office. They just didn't realize that there was this loophole. So we'll want to close the loophole.
And it kind of began at the local level, too. Like
It
some
is.
municipalities were passing it for city council, et cetera. Then the
There's
state's adopting it.
24 cities that allow non-citizens to vote legally in their state or municipal, or their municipal or school board elections.
Right.
You know, one of the issues that we heard constantly when it was talking about amending these state constitutions, and I'm sure they'll say it about amending the U.S. federal constitution, isn't it already illegal for non-citizens to vote? Isn't this something redundant? Isn't this just something red meat for Republicans to do to get their voters excited? This is already illegal.
So it's only illegal by statute. The Constitution doesn't say it's illegal. So Constitution trumps statute. And if a state decides to allow non-citizens to vote for their legislature, it automatically happens. Doesn't matter what statute says.
It's not necessarily illegal. It's frowned upon.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Well, they say that you can't lie and say you're a citizen in order to vote.
Right.
And if you're a non-citizen, you can't vote in an election that contains the president unless you're voting for something else that you're allowed to vote on.
Right. And I think one of the arguments that I saw when it started at the local level is if you're paying taxes and you want to vote for the trash assessor or the school board because you're paying sales tax, et cetera, and that was the argument, is that they were paying taxes that were going into these local services. Not saying I agree with this. I think only citizens should vote in U.S. elections.
And they were also bringing the argument it's no taxation without representation.
Right.
Except for
Right.
they fail to understand that when that was said at the beginning of our country, we couldn't get representation. Now they just have to become a citizen.
Right.
Kind of easy.
Follow the process, join the process.
And if they argue that they can't become a citizen because they're a dreamer, let's fix that problem.
Right.
Not something else.
Yeah, you're looking at different arguments for different problems, but citizens should be the ones that are voting, specifically in federal and the states deciding what they want to have happen in their state houses and local. And I totally understand the local control. I'm not sold on the fact that the city council or the board of aldermen of the city of New York City doesn't care about not letting non-citizens vote, or the state of California letting non-citizens vote.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, interestingly enough, in 2024, a city in California actually voted to not allow non-citizens to vote.
Which city was that?
Yeah, really.
It wasn't L.A. It wasn't San Francisco.
It
was
wasn't
Oxnard out by the onion fields.
It actually wasn't. I think it was Santa Ana, California.
Okay.
And it was very strong. There was a strong push to not allow non-citizens to vote.
I mean, there's very strong pockets of common sense outside of L.A., outside of
very few.
Right. And by the way, I was 4 years ago when I realized Santa Monica was part of L.A. and not part of San Diego. And I went through a lot of Three's Company reruns thinking Santa Monica was near San Diego.
Becky, Congress has oversight over elections. Can Congress fix this problem?
Unfortunately, they can't, because they have oversight over time, location, and manner. And a lot of people say, well, manner means that they can say that non-citizens can't vote. Manner is actually the registration form. It's making sure that all citizens can vote. U.S. citizens can vote, but they can't actually decide that non-citizens can't vote. And that was actually heard, or the Justice Scalia was part of his opinion in Arizona when the state of Arizona decided that you had to do proof of citizenship in order to vote. And the federal form does not require proof of citizenship. So it ended up in the Supreme Court, and they said, yeah, you have to allow the federal form because Congress said you have to allow the federal form. But that doesn't mean that Congress can say whether non-citizens can or can't vote.
There's a lot of debate right now about the SAVE Act in Congress. Congress is looking at putting this on Reconciliation 2.0 to try to get this passed. I think it's just common sense measure that you should prove when you register to vote that you are a U.S. citizen. Of course, the Democrats are saying that this will put undue hardship on minorities, and Jim, women will have to find their marriage licenses, and that's just a terrible, terrible thing. But is this like the SAVE Act, this constitutional amendment that Americans for Citizen Voting is proposing?
Absolutely nothing. Nothing like the SAVE Act. All this is doing is closing a simple loophole that's because everybody knows that non-citizens shouldn't be able to vote in federal elections. But there's a chance that it could accidentally happen because I'm sure none of these people that want to allow non-citizens to vote in legislative elections really intend for federal. It's just closing a small loophole that says non-citizens can't vote, closing the loophole that could allow a non-citizen to vote legally. Nothing to do with the SAVE Act.
Right, and that we're not talking about illegal aliens voting. We're just talking about non-citizens. You're here legally on a green card. You're here on a work visa, etc. You know,
we're not even talking about.
Right, this is not immigration. This is about
legally
voting.
We're talking
vote.
about legal voting.
That's
we're not even talking about illegal voting. Yes.
It's common sense. Why would we why would America let non-Americans vote for whomever is elected president?
And when we've done polling, over 90% of people have said, yeah, only citizens, U.S. citizens should vote in federal elections.
Yeah.
Jim alluded to this earlier. The last time that the United States Constitution was amended was during Gerald Ford, and it was allowed for 18-year-olds to vote instead of 21-year-olds. How does this work to amend the Constitution, and how difficult will this be?
This is going to be difficult because we've got to get it through both the House and the Senate, and they have to pass it. I want to say it's overwhelmingly. And then we need it. I think it's 2/3.
Right.
That's the number. 2/3. It's got to go 2/3.
Right.
Then we've got to get it ratified. Now the amendment has requested that it be ratified by convention.
Okay.
Now this does not mean an Article 5 convention in every state. This doesn't mean any type of convention. What this is most like the Electoral College.
Okay.
So you will vote if we get this out there. You will vote on whether you think non-citizen the Constitution should be amended or not. If you vote yes, then the people that are representing the yes will go to the Capitol and vote yes. If you vote no, which I don't think you would, but if you vote no,
I would.
Then the people will go. Then the no people will go to the Capitol and vote no, and that's why it's like the Electoral College and the fact that you're actually voting for this amendment, but you'll have a representative at the convention.
So other than opposition, the Constitution is inherently hard to change. It's written that way, or the process is that way. Who opposes something like this, and what are the arguments for not doing this? To me, this is logical common sense. But what's the left saying? I should say.
Pretty much anybody that's argued this is simply saying, well, this doesn't need to be done.
Right.
This isn't a problem. This is a solution looking for a problem.
Right.
But yet, if you walk through, first, if you realize what the Constitution says, and then you realize that Constitution is more powerful than statute, and then you realize that it could simply happen by accident. And there are people that are trying to allow non-citizens to vote legally in legislative elections. If I can get you that far, then you're just like, oh yeah, we need to fix this loophole.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Tell us about the Congresswoman from Florida that is the lead sponsor of this legislation, and how many fellow Congresspeople have signed on so far.
It's Congresswoman Laurel Lee.
Okay.
She is from Florida. She has been known as somebody that is conservative, but yet she can build consensus with others. Okay. And last time I looked, we had 4 other co-sponsors. It's only been filed a week. It has been assigned to the Judicial Committee.
Okay.
And so we're hoping that after they come back from break, that we'll get a hearing in the Judicial Committee, and we're asking everybody to reach out to the Judicial Committee and say, this is important. We want you to do something on it.
Are there any members from the Missouri delegation on the Judicial Committee?
There are not.
I couldn't. Yeah, the House Judicial.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And the one aspect that concerns me is that the minority leader is Congressman Jamie Raskin. And when he was in law school, he wrote an article saying that he believed that non-citizens should be able to vote in the United States.
He's supposed to be a constitutional scholar, Jim.
No.
Jamie Raskin.
No.
Becky, if people want to find out more about this proposed amendment, what should they do and how should they go about doing it?
Well, you can look us up on Facebook. We're USCVA, United States Citizen Voting Amendment, and then we've also got a website, and I cannot believe that I don't remember it off the top of my head. I know we have a link on our Americans for Citizen Voting page, Only Citizens Vote, but we actually have our own page, and I can't believe I forgot the link.
And before we close up, I usually try not to get too personal with our guests. We usually stick to the topics.
She's a lovely guest.
She is a lovely guest.
Wonderful guest.
Can you tell us how great your husband is and what a great talk show he is? Can you talk a moment? Can you talk a moment about that? And take your time.
I just truly believe I think everybody is super lucky to get all of the amazing insights that I hear every single day.
Yes, Becky is subjected to a lot of podcasts and a lot of podcasts. That is my wife, Becky Arps, and of course she's the director of Americans for Citizen Voting. The website is onlycitizens.vote. Becky, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you a little later.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. And
Thank
good to
you,
see
Becky.
Jim
It's always
and
good
Joey.
seeing you.
All right, 444, Chris's Corner. Who really runs St. Louis? I'll tell you that next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
Meeting you with a view to a kill.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert Meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. Mostly clear and cold overnight. We dropped to 32. A frost advisory in effect for St. Louis City and County. A freeze warning for the rest of the area. That goes until 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, sunny skies. Less wind, a high of 57 degrees. Partly cloudy Saturday night as we drop to 43. And then for Sunday, partly cloudy and warmer with a high of 70 degrees. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
On the next, Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story, March 29, 1973. The last U.S. combat forces left Vietnam.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Well, I don't need to tell you that we are in springtime, and we're in springtime storm season because you're experiencing it, right? Along with me here in the Hoppin' Heartland. Well, if you think you might have a problem with your roof or anything, in that general vicinity, I got the one-stop shop for you, Correll Roofing Co. Correll Roofing Company, CorrellRoofingCo.com. That's CORRELL, our new favorite roofing company here at News Talk STL. Your favorite as well. I'll tell you why. 20-plus years of experience. This is a local company, family-owned, independently owned. These are not fly-by-night storm chasers. They're not going to leave you hanging. They're going to be with you from the very beginning of the process until well after. And if you need to have them come back out and check something out, they'll do that as well. Curtis Correll and the whole gang at Correll Roofing Co. are absolutely fantastic. I know them personally. They will advocate for you from start to finish with your insurance company. They're not going to fight with them. They're not going to go toe-to-toe. But they're going to advocate for you and get the best deal possible for you and your personal situation. If you want ultimate peace of mind, I highly recommend Correll Roofing Co. at CorrellRoofingCo.com. Go there. Go to CorrellRoofingCo.com. See all the great things they can do for you. Schedule your appointment with them today. CorrellRoofingCo.com. That's CorrellRoofingCo.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common-sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my good friend Harry Parker and the ultimate seafood dining experience at Gulf Shores, GulfShoresRestaurantandGrill.com. Gulf Shores offering a unique dining experience with a vast, mouth-watering menu of all of your favorite delicious dishes, something for everyone's taste or palate. 3 convenient locations, Edwardville, Creve Coeur, and St. Peter's. Dine in, carry out. They've got a food truck, too. Friendly staff. Looking forward to seeing you, making your dining experience one you will remember. Gulf Shores Restaurantandgrill.com.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stiefel. Contact your Stiefel financial advisor at stiefel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Girl, you'll be a woman soon.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
I love you so much, can't count all the ways I died for you, girl, and all they can say is he's not your kind.
Americans across the country are expected to protest tomorrow against the Trump administration. It's another No Kings Day, and organizers predict it could become the largest mass protest in American history. This weekend's demonstration will be the third No Kings event, this time playing out against the backdrop of the U.S. war with Iran and growing anger over immigration enforcement. Events are planned in all 50 states, with the flagship march in St. Paul, Minnesota, drawing appearances from Bruce Springsteen, Joan Baez, and Jane Fonda.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
Who really runs St. Louis now? Let's talk about what's really going on with St. Louis police budget fight, because this isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about something much bigger. This is about who really runs St. Louis now. For years, St. Louis City leadership made a series of decisions, cutting police budgets, being slow to fill police vacancies, until many cases treating criminals like victims and police like the problem. Meanwhile, crime went up, businesses left, and population dropped. So Jefferson City stepped in and said, enough. If the city won't prioritize public safety, the state will. And now city leaders are saying, well, if we have to spend more money on police, we'll have to cut other services. And my response to that is very simple. Public safety is not just another line item in the budget. Public safety is the first job of government. Before parks, before bike lanes, before public art, before consultants, before any of it. Because if people don't feel safe, nothing else matters. Businesses won't invest, families won't stay, visitors won't come, and taxpayers, especially the ones paying the bulk of the taxes, will continue moving to St. Louis County, St. Charles County, or out of the state altogether. And that is exactly what is happening. So when people ask who really runs St. Louis now, here's the honest answer. Jefferson City stepped in because St. Louis leadership failed at the most basic responsibility of government, protecting its citizens. This is part of the media and the political class don't want to say out loud, but it's the truth. Now, do conservatives believe in local control? Yes, we do. But local control only works when local government is competent and responsible. When local leadership proves it can't or won't do the job, the state has both the right and the responsibility to step in, because the state has a duty to protect all Missouri citizens, including the people living in St. Louis. This isn't about Republicans versus Democrats. This is about competence versus incompetence. This is about order versus chaos. This is about whether law-abiding citizens matter more than criminals. And that's why this fight matters, because the real question is not who runs St. Louis. The real question is, should the people who allowed the decline of St. Louis be trusted to fix it? That's the debate we should be having. When the government fails at its most basic job, protecting its citizens, someone else is going to step in and do it. And that's exactly what's happening in St. Louis right now. That is Chris's Corner. Any thoughts there, Mr. Gwinner?
Well, I was downtown in the city, I guess I should say. I was in the city all day Friday last week for the NCAA.
Did you feel safe?
I did. I was inside watching NCAA games.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You were safe.
From like 11 to 11. I just smacked dab.
And you didn't have to worry about after you got out because there was a curfew going on. You didn't have to worry about thugs and hoodlums mugging you.
My town had a curfew when I was a kid.
Yeah.
We had a 10 o'clock curfew siren, and if you didn't...
A siren?
Yeah,
That was
like
serious.
Yeah,
wow, really?
It's kind of like the Purge. But if you were out and the cops caught you, they'd, first of all, you got in trouble twice. Once the cops would yell at you for being out, and
your parents.
And then your parents. You got whooped twice. And being downtown, I was downtown Sunday. I love the St. Louis region.
Yeah.
Okay. You ask anybody when you're here in town, Chris, where are you from? You're gonna say,
St. Louis.
Yeah. But I say I'm from Chesterfield, West County, or when I'm talking to other locals.
Right.
But when I go down to Jeff City or I'm in D.C. or somebody says, "Where are you from?" It's St. Louis. And we do need to look at problems regionally. I mean, now you see the city in better financial position than the county. But not to take away from the city. The conversations that came up downtown were about safety,
right?
From the people and the guests. The conversation came up to the extremely horrendous accident that happened to the volleyball player 2 years ago. That same tournament was going on downtown. Heightened security. There's a lot of things that need to be done to improve, and everybody needs to be a part of the solution.
And I don't know why this curfew thing has been resurrected. It's on the books that if you're 17 or younger, you have to be inside during a certain time in St. Louis City and St. Louis County. I grew up in the mid-'80s when I was driving and everything. We had curfews. We were always kind of worried that I hope I don't get pulled over because it's past the curfew. And that happened one time. I was 17. I think 17 was the cutoff, and I was taking a young lady home that was a little younger than me. And we did get pulled over by the police. She didn't get in trouble, but he did mention that, it's past curfew for you. And I don't know why all of a sudden that is all gone by the wayside. There is talk now of making last weekend's curfew permanent, which it should be permanent. It's already on the books. But, you shouldn't only worry about people's safety You shouldn't only worry about people's safety downtown when there's a big basketball tournament or sporting event in town. It should be all the time, especially if you want to bring people back to downtown and have them feel safe.
And I remember a conversation earlier last week, and someone's like, well, there's nothing for kids to do. There's a lot of things for kids to do. Church groups have community centers, the Urban League
Midnight basketball?
After school programs, Boy Scout. I mean, there's a countless.
But you remember midnight basketball, though.
I do remember midnight basketball.
That didn't go so well.
I also remember it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are?
I remember those ads.
Predating the days of cell phones and checking the GPS.
Yeah.
I was like, is my kid going to make it home by curfew?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it's okay. He can be late. He's going to Taco Bell for me, too. So.
Hey, I want to take a little note of personal privilege before we end the segment here. I announced, Jim, a few weeks ago that I had stage 2 prostate cancer, and I had finished my radiation treatments. It was 6 weeks of 28 treatments, and so I was very happy about that. My PSA had dropped dramatically from where it was then. I had a checkup this morning where I had to get my PSA tested again. And my PSA is down to 0.1, which is a very, very, very low rate. So, first of all, I'm very thankful to the Lord for the treatments working, for sparing my life. And, when I announced that I had this, I felt an obligation to make sure that other men, because we're getting a little long in the tooth, Jim. I'm a year older than you, but we're not getting any younger. And that I just implore all men, if you are over 50, especially if you are African-American, please go get your PSA checked. Because, Jim, I had no symptoms, no anything. I just went in for a routine checkup that I hadn't been to in 45 years. And that's when I discovered that my PSA was elevated.
And I'm a little different. I've been getting checkups about every year because my brother had cancer when he was 29 and I was 22, 23. I was 6 years younger, whatever. I was in the Army. So I've just always been like hypersensitive because he had cancer.
Yeah.
And he's fine now. And he's, still my big brother. And thank God for that. And thank God for explaining what the levels meant, because I had no idea how you interpret that. And thank you for doing that for the audience. I'm glad you're good, and I'm sure it's a weight off you to see these continued good tests.
It was great news to get that today. All right, coming up, we're going to speak with Mitch Baden. He's the CEO of Royal Banks. The markets have been in turmoil since the Iran war. We'll talk to him about that, and we'll speak with David Stokes on the municipal elections happening next month. And at the end of the show, Joey's Movies, They Will Kill You. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Vic. If you have a tree that you think is dead, you can get Roots Plus to remove it for you. Or if you think the tree is savable, or if Roots Plus thinks it's savable, they can save your tree and you keep your cash. Call them and find out what that's all about at 314-440-3662. The crews are great. They get things done. They removed the tree for me, and they did expert work, and I definitely will put my name on their company. So save the tree with Roots Plus LLC. RootsPlusLLC.com.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Never paint again with Rhino Shield. Listen to what a couple of happy customers have to say.
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted. Our building was really faded. You came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
What a wonderful job they did. It's beautiful. They were very thoughtful, kind, considerate guys. Appreciate all the work that these two young men did.
Call Rhino Shield, 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Russia's top diplomat denies providing intelligence to Iran. Correspondent Charles Desma has the details.
In an interview on France television on Thursday night, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says Russia and Iran have a military technical agreement, and Moscow has supplied Iran with certain types of military products. Countering the suggestion that Moscow passes on classified information to Tehran, he adds, but we can't accept the accusations that we're helping Iran with intelligence. From Moscow, Lavrov says, everyone knows the coordinates of U.S. military bases in the region. It's public information. Lavrov's not surprised that Iran is attacking the bases. I'm Charles Dillatasma.
Information from FBI Director Kash Patel's personal email has been leaked online.
The FBI says it is aware of malicious actors targeting Director Kash Patel as a pro-Iranian group claims credit for hacking Patel's personal Gmail account. In a message to their website posted Friday, Handala boasted that Patel will now find his name among the list of successfully hacked victims. Files in the leaked cache include old photos of Patel, some from more than 10 years ago, showing him casually dressed, sniffing a cigar and posing next to an antique sports car. Leaked documents include a resume with contact information. Handala is the same group that claimed credit for disrupting systems at Stryker, a Michigan-based medical tech company. I'm Jennifer King.
President Trump has signed a promised executive action that will pay Transportation Security Administration employees after a deal that sought to do the same stalled in Congress. Trump signed the action Friday with an eye toward easing long security lines at airports. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 793, the NASDAQ lower by 459, the S&P down 108. More at Town Hall.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert Meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. Mostly clear and cold overnight. We dropped to 32. A frost advisory in effect for St. Louis City and County. A freeze warning for the rest of the area. That goes until 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, sunny skies. Less wind, a high of 57 degrees. Partly cloudy Saturday night as we drop to 43. And then for Sunday, partly cloudy and warmer with a high of 70 degrees. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and I'm here with Dr. Grant Black. And Grant, does having more economic freedom make a difference in people's lives, such as maybe helping reduce poverty?
It definitely makes a difference. Economic freedom is critical for fostering well-being and prosperity. It enables people to make their own choices and pursue their own interest, like choosing careers, starting businesses, and innovating to make the world better. It thrives in environments that empower people, promote competition, and protect property rights, all while being supported by limited and healthy government. Economic freedom is a catalyst for generating higher incomes, greater wealth, more opportunities, better access to education, and improved health at all levels of society. It makes a difference.
The John W. Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University fosters and examines market-oriented approaches to economic and social issues. To learn more, visit hammondinstitute.org.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my favorite go-to store for seafood, gourmet goodness, and tons of wine. It's Stars, 1135 South Big Bend. A huge selection of seafood flown in from the coast. Lemon sole, halibut, Maryland lump crab, Gulf shrimp, and you gotta try the trout dip. Plus, imported and domestic hand-cut cheeses, lots of hand-picked wines at great prices, hard-to-find gourmet foods, and fresh roasted coffee using only the best quality beans. Stars, 1135 South Big Bend, just off of Highway 40.
License number GL250000615.
We've seen all kinds of clogs, so remember the rule. Only flush 3 things. Number 1, number 2, and toilet paper.
What about my dinosaurs?
No?
My monster truck?
Nope.
What about...
If it's not the big 3, don't flush it.
But if someone does flush a dinosaur...
Call Grasser. We clear the clog and get things moving again.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
I listen to News Talk STL on the app driving to work.
Download the News Talk STL app.
You got to get the News Talk STL app.
Love the app. Can listen anywhere in St. Louis.
And listen anytime.
News Talk STL right on my phone.
Anywhere. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
FBI Director Kash Patel targeted by Iranian-backed hackers. The Department of Justice confirming that Patel's emails and photos have been published online by the Handala hack team, an Iranian-linked group known for cyber attacks against American businesses and government officials. The material published online appears to show personal and work-related messages from Patel dating back to 2010. No word, though, from the FBI on how this hack happened.
507 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And sitting in with me today is Jim Gwinner, partner with LS2 Group, old, and I put that in quotation marks, political and friend of mine. Jim is sitting in for, wow, I think this is what, your third or fourth?
At least fourth, could be fifth. It's great to be here. We are old friends. I mean, the flag has always had 50 stars in our friendship.
Yeah,
but...
exactly. Jim, what do you make of that? How in the world does a former FBI director, who you think would be steeped in cybersecurity and would be very careful about opening any type of emails from people that you're not familiar with, could have his personal email account hacked by Iranian hackers? I find this, kind of weird.
It's weird, but here's the thing. Cyber attacks are inherently, you launch a missile, it's $1 million.
Right.
This is inexpensive warfare. This is something non-state actors like Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, whomever can afford to recruit and train and arm, for lack of a better phrase, computer technology people, computer scientists.
Yeah.
This is 4 Iranians sitting in a room hacking things and trying to figure out how to get into stuff. This is the Nigerian prince sending you $1 million. This is no different, and it's very inexpensive, and we've got billions and billions of dollars worth of U.S. military defense missile structures and soldiers and airmen and Marines and sailors and Coast Guard. I don't want to leave anybody out.
Right.
But this is an inexpensive way for anybody to take on Goliath. This is, the Iranians are never going to outgun us.
Right.
They're never going to have a larger, more capable army than the United States. But this is computer scientists sitting in a room learning to hack and being able to infiltrate Google, Gmail. And I don't mean like it was that, but like cyber warfare is an inexpensive equalizer for nations to utilize.
But the thing is, though, it is inexpensive warfare. These are very sophisticated people that understand this type of technology, but you got to give them an opening first before they can get into there. And one of the ways is you open an email from someone that you don't know, or, someone says, like you said, Nigerian hackers, you won $1 million. I mean, how in the world did the FBI director open an email that somehow the Iranians were able to access his account?
If somebody emailed me and it looked real, first of all, if I don't recognize something, I'm going to see who it's from.
Exactly.
But secondly, if someone said, I just won, because every year I enter the lottery to get tickets to the Masters, if someone said, I just won tickets to Augusta, click.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be excited.
Yeah.
Maybe they said he won tickets to the Kentucky Derby, or maybe he won a free bottle of wine or something. I wouldn't say stupidity is the right word, but let's use the word. I mean, it's like, maybe that's not what happened, because cyber warfare is very sophisticated now, and it's not always the recipient of the attack that has to click something. It is just getting in. I mean, if I had, I'd say at least 10 times a year, I get emails on my work platform that is from somebody at work, unless you look and see who it's from, that says, hey, I need you to stop by and get me an Apple gift card, and I need you to send me the numbers. I'm stuck. And that was actually done by a brand new employee several years ago. And I'll say this, it certainly sounds like one of my friends that would do that. But it's an equalizer. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a two-action thing. It could be infiltrating it, just think of like tunneling in, for lack of a better way.
Being involved in politics for the last 25 years, my antenna goes up. I'm very suspicious of a lot of things, as you know, because you follow politics closely. The long knives were out for Kash Patel over the past few months. Every time you looked around, there was a story that I believe the White House or some people in the White House didn't like him would leak to the newspapers about he's providing Secret Service protection for his girlfriend, who's a country star,
Right.
or he was taking government jets to go see this woman
Which
sing.
is required by law.
Go see this woman sing. And then there also was a lot of speculation because Andrew Bailey left job here as Secretary of Attorney
AG,
General
right.
to become Deputy Co-Director, whatever the job was. Bongino, of course, quit, and that opened up a spot for him. But there was a lot of speculation that our former Attorney General would be the FBI director. Do you think this is someone trying to kindle that fire and make Cash look bad and maybe have him being ushered out? See how conspiratorial I am?
No, and I'm kind of like inherently don't really jump on these conspiracy theories too much, except that I do think someone's trying to keep Mizzou basketball down. But no, I mean, but Bailey was on the short list.
Yeah.
Back when they were doing the transition in 24, 25, and now he's out there. I think he's on. The administration has their eyes on him for higher things. I certainly believe that. But no, I don't think that. I think this is more evidence of the great equalizer, which is technology, which can equalize a small armed power like in Iran,
Right.
the North Vietnamese were shooting arrows and jets at one time.
Yeah. DHS, of course, is in the news. Immigration, ICE has been in the news. You can only imagine how stressful that job has been over the last couple of months with what happened in Minnesota with 2 killings, with the Border Patrol, border being the way that it was, and that Donald Trump was wanting more of these people being deported. They had like a quota for that, and the administration wasn't happy when they were meeting that quota. News came out today, Jim, that the acting head of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Todd Lyons, he's been hospitalized at least twice for stress-related issues. Lyons said in a statement the stress he experienced wasn't due to the White House, but he did not address the hospitalization. Sounds like this is a job that maybe he needs to move on from when it's like causing you hospitalization. I mean, that's some serious stress right there.
Yeah, and let's face it, anybody in an administration, regardless of party, that is a high intensity. I mean, if you're chief of staff, if you're a departmental director, et cetera, I mean, your life is committed to upholding and protecting and defending the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah.
That's a 24/7 job for the 4 years you're there. That is why you see so many people not stay for 4 years, not stay for the 8 years if it's consecutive, not come back for a non-consecutive president like you see. It is exhausting.
All right. We have on the line, Jim, Mitch Baden. He is the CEO of Royal Banks. Always a great time to talk to Mitch. Mitch, how are you?
Doing good, Chris. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. Hey, I've got in studio with me a guy named Jim Gwinner. I used to think that you were the biggest Mizzou fan of all time. I think Jim Gwinner kind of surpasses you on that, Mitch.
I'm a big, huge Mizzou fan. It is great to meet you, and I am excited to talk to you about all things, including Mizzou.
Jim was your president of the...
I was president of the Mizzou Alumni Board of Directors volunteer position the year we joined the SEC. I am extremely happy to be out of the Big 12. I miss the Big 8.
Well, I tell people that when they ask what position I played, I tell them I played a position that nobody uses anymore in a defense that nobody runs, to stop an offense that only the academies do in a conference that doesn't exist.
Wow. Was that wishbone and triple option?
There you go.
See, I know a little bit about a little bit. And you were there. I was looking at your bio. Were you there the 74, 78? Were you in there the 78 season or just 74 through 77 seasons?
74 through 77.
Okay.
And, Al Rayo. So, yeah. Hey, I thought this was a political talk.
It could be.
Hey, before we get going to Mitch, I also want to thank you for connecting me or hooking me up with Timothy's Restaurant. It has become the go-to restaurant for me and my wife. We absolutely love it, and I'm honored and privileged to do live endorsements for them now. So I want to thank you for that recommendation.
Well, you're welcome. I was pretty upset with you when I saw that Facebook post, and I wasn't even mentioned, and I was the guy that introduced you to it.
Yeah, but I mentioned you over the air that goes out all over Missouri, so that goes a little farther than my Facebook page.
Well, for all your listeners, Stephen and Amanda do an amazing job. It's a great restaurant. Go see them. The food and the wine selection's fabulous. Chris doesn't drink, but I do.
All right, Mitch, I want to get your opinion on this. A bipartisan pair of senators last Wednesday introduced legislation that would give the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation 6 months to decide whether to raise its cap on deposit insurance as high as $5 million for some accounts. Is that a good idea?
See, Chris, that's a really interesting question. I already think that the FDIC does not have any choice but to cover virtually every deposit that's ever made. So let me give you an example. The banks that failed 2 years ago, they covered every deposit. Mm-hmm. So if I'm in Missouri and they don't cover my deposit, but they covered the deposits in two horribly run banks, on the coast, I think there'd be class action lawsuits all over the place. I do think the FDIC fund is too low. Candidly, wealth has increased significantly over the years. There's all kinds of formulas for how you can structure your deposits legally and get the coverage. But I think the coverage has been too low for many years. And candidly, I think there are lots of instruments out there that banks can provide to be able to give people coverage. There's one last thing. There's a group called IntraFi, which is kind of a bank consortium where I can set you up in an account and you get the legal protection from me at the FDIC level, and then we participate with other banks and you get them for anything over at another bank. So there are ways to do this. I do think the government's, as typical, the Senate is behind the times.
Is the FDIC limit that's now $250,000 per account?
Well, again, yeah, it's sort of per relationship, but basically that. But again, I think the most important thing is people need to remember the fund is paid for by the banks. It's not taxpayer money. It's banks contributing every year. We pay a quarterly fee every year to the FDIC, and so if they raise the limits, what they're really going to do is ultimately raise the fees that the banks have to pay the FDIC for protection.
Right. I mean, it seems like it would trend that way. To your point, yeah. Wealth has grown, accounts have grown, wages increase over time, et cetera. But I always thought, like, if I had that X limit on an account, I would just have multiple accounts.
Well, you can, but there are very specific requirements, and in fact, most banks, the retail banking groups can really walk you through how to protect your money with the FDIC insurance fund. I mean, as an example, if you have a grandchild, you could add them to the account. They can be a beneficiary. You can add a signer or a beneficiary. You have another grandchild, you can do that. And so you're protected up to dollar amounts on each one of those accounts.
Mitch, there is a trend now of larger banks expanding aggressively into regional markets. Fifth Third and Comerica, they just merged, creating a top 10 U.S. bank. Are regional community banks getting squeezed by this consolidation? And Royal Banks is a community bank.
Well, the consolidation's been happening, my entire career. And candidly, Chris, I've almost been doing this 50 years now. I'm embarrassed to say, but it's been consolidating for years. I mean, when I started in banking, there were 12,000 bank charters, and now we're down to about 4,700.
Wow.
I think consolidation is just a part of where our landscape is. I have a constant battle going on with people that think that community banks don't really need to be a part of the banking system. That the United States is very different than most countries. Canada, as an example, doesn't have a lot of community banks. They don't have any at all. The reality is, though, I remind people that when agricultural loans are considered. Virtually 80% of those loans are made by community banks. We have banks in rural markets in Illinois and Northeast Missouri, and there are no national banks in those markets. I think that's an important distinction for community banks. And the other is when PPP loans were out there, the majority of those loans were done by community banks. The big banks were forced to participate because the community banks were eating their lunch. Mm-hmm. I think it's happening, but I think it's a natural occurrence, and I hope that it'll slow down a little bit. I think community banks will always have a reason to exist because I tell everybody this is our home. St. Louis in the Missouri and Illinois, these are our homes, metropolitan area. That's not like it is for a person at PNC whose chairman is sitting, in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or wherever. This is our home, and so I think community banks will be, are here to stay. Whether or not the number is going to stay the same, I don't know.
Mitch, you have recently been named as a St. Louis Business 500 and a St. Louis Titan. Again, tell us what that means, and congratulations, sir.
Well, thank you. Chris, I think it's more of a compliment to the team that I work with because I have just a great team that here at the bank that do a great job. And I think when the CEO of any company is recognized, it's recognized for the results of the company. We have grown our company significantly, and I think that's really important. But it's truly an honor to be a Titan. That's the top 100 business CEOs in a market. It's a great organization and something that I am very honored to be part of. And then to be recognized by the St. Louis Magazine as one of the top 500 business leaders is really special because that's our hometown. That's our hometown paper. Mm-hmm. It's just nice to be able to be recognized. And again, I want to really reiterate, it's really a statement about the people I work with more than me personally, but I appreciate it. Thanks for the compliment.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you, I want to talk about debt a little bit because it seems like Americans are carrying 111 million Americans carrying balances. Debt's over $1 trillion. Average balance $6,700. What is your take on consumer debt and where it's at, where it's headed? Because I get the income side, I get the asset side, but the debt side of the ledger, I remember telling my son when he was moving out of the dorm at Mizzou over into the fraternity house, hey, it's only going to cost this much. The alumni are going to pay this much to move you into the fraternity house. I'm like, that's great, business major. What's it going to cost me? You're not looking at both sides of the abacus. But what are you seeing with debt? What are you seeing as the trends, and what are the things on your radar screen that Americans should watch out for, both as a broad economy or as a consumer? Big question.
Well,
broad question.
We have far too much consumer debt in this country. Student loan delinquency is at its record high. Credit card delinquency is is getting higher. Credit card debt is at record levels. Automobile financing is starting to see a slowdown in payments. Home equity credit lines are starting to see delinquency. So, I'm very concerned about where consumer debt is because, let's be candid, our economy is consumer based. Mm-hmm. If consumers don't have the money to buy, it weakens everything in our economy.
Do you see a contracting of the letting of credit, whether it be home equity lines or auto? I mean, obviously the automakers are going to want to sell cars and we're going to finance it. But do you see, making it harder to take on new debt? And I'll ask this for one thing. As a 57-year-old, I'm in a position where I'm not seeing the end of the light in the end of the tunnel, but I know there's a tunnel around the corner for retirement. But my daughter getting ready to graduate college, we're having these conversations like, okay, you've got your credit card, you're establishing credit, you pay it off every month. We're teaching, these better money habits, these things that you need to know as a good American. How do you manage these things? I mean, I'll brag about my son. This is a kid who took several $1,000s into the market when he graduated high school. He would work and he put so much into the market. He's paid for his freshman year of spending money by using the growth?
Well, I wish I could say that that's what I see. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing are consumers just don't have the ability to say no, and so they buy things on credit. They buy things on delayed terms, which that just means the cost is higher. You may not pay interest, but the cost of the good is higher. And I do think credit is getting a little tighter. The captive finance companies for cars, they're going to continue to make loans because they want to sell cars, just like you said. But consumers are still spending at a level that they just can't sustain in many cases. A perfect example is mortgage calculations for eligibility have increased over the years to the point that now 50 or 55% of a person's net income is available and acceptable for payment on mortgages.
Wow.
Instead of being more conservative, we've gone back to what happened in 2008 and made things easier for people with lesser down payments and weaker cash flows. So I worry about that.
Yeah, I remember the movie that taught me more about the mortgage housing crisis, The Big Short, which was brilliant. It had Margot Robbie in it explaining to me what a tranche was in a bubble bath. It was awesome. But, where do you see the housing market going in let's say, the next decade? Are we entering closer toward and a high level? And I know, are we 2008, 2009, let's call that the edge of the cliff. How close are you seeing us getting back towards that limits again? Or how fast are we running towards that same cliff?
Well, mortgage delinquency has creeped up a little bit, but not much nationally.
Okay.
I think the issue is still supply and demand on the mortgage side. The people that run our mortgage department are saying, oh, rates are so high. Well, candidly, rates are about where they have been historically. What's happened is we were spoiled since 2008 by lower rates, and so people are stuck in homes not because they can't afford a new house necessarily. It's because they don't want to give up the interest rate that they have.
Yeah. Oh, I'm exactly there. I refinanced, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I got a VA loan 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it was, 3 3/4 and refied for a 2 3/4. I'm not going anywhere.
Well, just first of all, let me thank you for your service since you qualified for VA. But again, you're the perfect example. People are not moving, and so the inventory of resale homes is not as great. Eventually, what I think will happen, though, is people will become more accustomed to what the rates are. They'll realize these are traditional rates. They're going to say to themselves, I can afford this house. I'm making more money. I'm going to take the bullet and buy that bigger house, one, because they may need it for more kids, or two, they may just want it for stature. But I think eventually people will say, I'm willing to give a little higher rate to have a little different house. And I think that will catch up, and that will help this resale market because people will be selling their homes versus staying in them.
I'm keeping mine for equity and growth.
And if you look also, there's a lot of ground being developed for single-family residential throughout the metropolitan area on both sides of the river. People are buying those, and they're going to be moving out of homes into these new homes as well. So while the growth isn't as big as it was when rates were low, growth is still occurring.
And that is Mitch Baden, CEO of Royal Banks of Missouri, royalbanksofmo.com. Mitch, thank you as always for your time, my friend, and we look forward to speaking with you again, and have a great weekend.
Hey, Chris, it's always good to talk. Jim, M-I-Z, big guy.
Z-O-U, back at you.
5:31, we're going to speak with David Stokes. He's on the line waiting. We're going to talk about April 7th elections and a new report he co-authored with Cindy Pendergrass. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. Mostly clear and cold overnight. We dropped to 32. A frost advisory in effect for St. Louis City and County. A freeze warning for the rest of the area. That goes until 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, sunny skies, less wind, a high of 57 degrees. Partly cloudy Saturday night as we drop to 43. And then for Sunday, partly cloudy and warmer with a high of 70 degrees. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
This is Tony Colombo, and my favorite Capriotti sandwich is the cheesesteak made with American Wagyu beef from Snake River Farms, and you have to include a side of their amazing fries. I love Capriotti's, and you will too.
Open 9 to 9 daily on Manchester of McKnight in Rock Hill.
When the storm hits and a tree comes down, you need someone you can trust right now. OLI Outdoor Services in Godfrey is on call 24/7 for emergency tree removal, trimming, stump grinding, and land clearing. Serving Illinois and Missouri with licensed, insured professionals and over 200 years of combined experience. Tree removal starting at just $2.99. Free estimates, plus financing. Visit OLIOutdoorservices.com or call 1-888-5-SAWING. St. Louis's place to talk.
Freedom of speech is one of the anchors of our society.
News Talk STL.
Gotcha. You thought I didn't see you now.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Now give me what you promised me. Give it here. Come on.
Early voting is underway for Missouri's municipal elections. Proposition E is the only issue on the ballot in St. Louis. It imposes a 1% sales tax on city residents and businesses in the city. Mayor Kara Spencer says this tax pays for about a third of the city's budget election. Election day is April 7th.
David Stokes over at the Show Me Institute.
In high school, you talk about spike. I had a very short spiked. It was
I knew there's some spike somewhere in that stuff.
It wasn't very punky. It was more Leave It to Beaver-ish, maybe.
No, it's not Tuesday, and no, it's not Groundhog Day. Yes, you have David Stokes for a twofer this week. David, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Chris. Good to be on the air with you again. Great to be on the air with my old friend, Mr. Gwinner.
Hey, David. Sorry I got a little long in the tooth on the last segment, man. You didn't go to Mizzou, did you?
I did not go to Mizzou, but I am a big Mizzou football fan, especially. For basketball, my loyalties are with St. Louis U, but well, certainly a football Tiger fan.
And we're going to have to tell Show Me Institute, we got a rule here. We only allow, I guess, once a week, not twice a week. So we're breaking the rules for you, David. All right, April 7th is fast approaching. We've got some municipal elections that are coming up. Can you give us a election preview, sir?
Well, there is so much on the ballot and a lot of big stuff on the ballot. So we can start wherever you want with I guess we'll start with the promo let in with. The city of St. Louis is voting on retaining the earnings tax, which by law they now have to vote every 5 years on. And, of course, it passes overwhelmingly. If you're going to give the people of the city a choice to tax commuters and outsiders for some of their stuff, they're going to say yes. It doesn't change the fact that the earnings tax is a terrible tax. Most cities and most large cities do not have local income taxes. They're a very bad way to fund local government. They encourage people and businesses to leave the cities that have them. And there's no better example of that around the country than St. Louis, with more estimates of further population decline just coming out earlier this week. So, it's frustrating to see this earnings tax get renewed. It's troubling to give the law is the law, but people are usually, if you're going to say, do you want to tax other people for your stuff? Most people are going to say yes. So it is what it is. It continues to hurt the city of St. Louis substantially, but the leadership of the city still wants it, and the voters still say, gimme, 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 I guess.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the city earnings tax, does that still, because my wife used to work downtown right about the time we were getting married. I know if you're a city resident, you pay the 1% earning tax, or if you work in the city, you're paying the earnings tax, which when she got transferred from, I think she was in U City, it was on Del Mar ad firm, and then she worked downtown. they tossed the 1% earnings tax. Everybody got transferred. Like, yeah, we didn't sign up for this. We expect a 1% raise. That's still the way that operates, is it not? And why do people keep voting for that if it's a tax? I think they would want a tax decrease on themselves.
Well, yes, that's still how it works. That's exactly how it works. But why do they keep voting for it? Again, if it goes away, they will likely, those city residents say, who do pay it, yes, but they will likely have to pay, in part, higher property or sales taxes to make up for that lost tax revenue from commuters. It shouldn't be worthwhile to them on that. That's the short-term trade that most voters make in their heads, and I guess you can understand it. But in the long term, it drives people like your wife out of employment with the city. They don't want to work in the city. They don't want to live in the city. So you get fewer taxpayers in there, and that's what you see around the country, not just in St. Louis. So, if you make the mistake, as the city did 75 years or so ago, and give voters the option to tax commuters for this, they're going to take it, and it's hard to convince them to get rid of it.
Well, I know as not as a city resident, I love the city. It would be wonderful and fun to work downtown. In my younger days when there was things going on that I wanted to do as a single guy, as an old married guy with 2 kids, I just want to go home and, have dinner. But, every time I've looked for a lease for my work, and I've looked and David, I was telling Chris on break, one year you handed me all those yard signs back at your place down on, I think it was Pine, when you lived downtown or worked downtown.
Good memory, Jim.
Every time my lease had come up, I never considered wanting to pay 1% of my hard-earned income into extra taxes. I mean, it's like I'll pay the taxes that I owe. I want my city council to fix my potholes and police my streets. I don't really necessarily need them debating the war or anything else. But it's like I think without it, you may see more development, more people going down. I know there's a lot of arguments for that, but it just seems like I'd always been turned off by increasing my taxes willingly.
And a lot of people feel that way, which is why, the biggest number is not just people who leave the city because of it. It's people who never even consider moving there and never consider opening a business there in the first place. And that's not just in St. Louis. That's found around the country in cities that have earnings taxes. And yes, some of those cities, like New York, have an appeal and an appeal to find out whatever it may be that can overcome that and still be tremendously desirable. But many other cities don't. And there's excellent economic proof, both studies by the Show Me Institute and plenty of other economists who look at the question of local income taxes and say they're a very bad idea. Yeah. So hopefully, I would love to be surprised here in 2 weeks and have the voters in the city of St. Louis decide to phase it out. And that's what they're voting on. There's no getting rid of it overnight.
Right.
It's a long-term phase-out plan that I think would be great for the city.
Dave, before we let you go, do you have any thoughts on the announcement the county executive made this week that the Jefferson Barracks fireworks display will not happen this year, the 250th anniversary of our nation, and that county offices will be closed on Friday?
We touched on this on Tuesday, and having learned even more about it since then, I'm probably even angrier about it. I mean, really, it's just the old, anytime government has to cut something, it never looks for duplicative services or best. It always wants to make it hurt. That's the expression, make it hurt. So take the most visible party that the County Parks Department throws every year, really the only one since they used to have the air show, but that's for the most part gone. Now the JB party on the 4th of July, and to just get rid of this one event, it's really just making it hurt to the people of unincorporated South St. Louis County, who many of whom have been loving that party for a long, long time. And I find that one more frustrating than the closing the county offices to the public on Fridays. I don't think that's such a big problem. People don't go to the county offices nearly as much as they used to. it might be a big problem if they did that in December when people are trying to pay taxes. But other than that, that's not a big deal. But the JB Blast closure, I think, is a big, big mistake and designed to sort of say to the people of the county, if you don't approve a tax hike, you're going to get more of this, as opposed to trying to make sensible cuts like the county council did last year in preparation for the budget.
David, I have one last question for you before we let you go. Do you like horror movies?
No, I'm not a big horror
Really?
movie fan. You get some of the classics like The Omen and Rosemary's Baby, some of those terrifying movies from the 70s. Those are great, but more modern horror slasher type movies, no, not really a fan of.
Well, I'm going to need you to still listen to your radio after your segment because Joey's movie reviews come up next, and he's going to be reviewing a movie called They Will Kill You, and we're going to see how many toasted rads Joey gives that movie. So you need to still be listening to your radio for this review. You may want to take the family out for a good slasher.
I love Joey's film reviews, so I cannot wait to listen to it.
All right.
David is horrified by fire and ambulance taxes. That's what he is scared of.
That is David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute. And coming up, Joey V's movies. It's Friday. They Will Kill You. That is the movie he is reviewing. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL, number one for live and local conservative talk.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert Meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. Mostly clear and cold overnight. We dropped to 32. A frost advisory in effect for St. Louis City and County. A freeze warning for the rest of the area. That goes until 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, sunny skies. Less wind, a high of 57 degrees. Partly cloudy Saturday night as we drop to 43. And then for Sunday, partly cloudy and warmer with a high of 70 degrees. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
On the next, Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story, March 29, 1973. The last U.S. combat forces left Vietnam.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Hi, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and I'm here with Dr. Grant Black. And Grant, capitalism, that is increasingly under attack. But why is a free market system so important?
The simple answer, society is much better off because of free markets. Free markets allow individuals and business owners to freely choose what to consume, how to save, where to live and do business, what to produce, and how to protect our valuable resources, and so much more. And this can all happen without requiring heavy government interference. In a nutshell, free markets empower people to live their lives the way they choose. And this makes all our lives better.
The John W. Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University fosters and examines market-oriented approaches to economic and social issues. To learn more, visit hammondinstitute.org.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Craving the freshest in town? Anthony's Produce is your daily destination for nature's finest. Browse our rainbow of quality fruits and vegetables. Always fresh, always delicious. Hosting an event? Let us create stunning fruit bouquets and fruit or vegetable trays. We proudly stock hundreds of locally made products, seasoned firewood for pickup or delivery, and year-round chocolate-covered strawberries. Open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sundays. 701 Juggerman Road or Anthony'sProduce.com.
Why are you going to work? It's Sunday.
It's a brand new show on News Talk STL. JC's Sunday Showgram.
This week, it's great backstories of my celebrity brush with greatness incidents. Adam Sandler, Vanna White, Ozzy Osbourne, and Mike Myers among them. Plus, here goes Stan Kroenke making threats again. And what was it like working with Howard Stern? I did, beginning this week back in 1982. All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
Sunday morning, 7 to 9. Then podcast each Monday on newstalkstl.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
The Virgil was built in 1923. Today, it's one of the most exclusive buildings in Manhattan.
This building is a temple to Satan. Each month we must pay with a human sacrifice. Tonight, you are the offering.
There has to be a way out of here.
The building was designed to be a death trap.
Woo! 5:47 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and I just got goosebumps just listening to that trailer. They Will Kill You. Joey V has the review next.
Joey, baby, what movie are you playing?
Brought to you by Harry J's Steakhouse in Moscow Mills.
Today, we're talking about the movie They Will Kill You. And here is the plot. A woman is hunted by a satanic cult made up of rich people. Chris, does that sound familiar?
Well, rich people are evil anyway, though, right?
Do you remember last week's review of Ready or Not 2? It was the exact same plot. And that leads me to a pop quiz.
Okay.
Pop quiz, everyone. Get ready.
All right.
I'm ready.
There's this term called twin films where two movies come out at about the exact same time, same plot, but totally different studios. Can you name a single twin film? I'll give you a hint. One was Bug's Life and Ants. Those both came out pretty much back to back. Can you think of any others?
I think you need to look at Jim. He's
Jim, the
probably
winner?
I'm blanking, but I know there have been
Tombstone and Wyatt Earp came out very close together.
There wasn't there two Guadalcanal, the Thin Red Line and something else all kind of came out at the same time. Maybe I'm blanking on
See,
what
the
it is.
military guy.
Yeah,
I knew
but
he was
go
straight
military.
for
But I mean, I can go back to the Seiya Iwo Jima, and I mean, there's a lot of movies out, but
Deep Impact and Armageddon.
Oh yeah,
White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen.
Okay.
And of course, American Werewolf in London and The Howling to get it back to
Those
horror films.
were now that I remember
You
that. That was a
should've
good
known that
movie.
one.
Yeah, I love that American Werewolf in London. Great movie.
It's an incredible movie. Now, these are two different movies, so don't get them confused, but it's bizarre that they're coming out back-to-back weekends. So this one is a lot more exciting to me.
Oh, okay.
They Will Kill You. If you watch the trailer, you'll know within seconds if this movie is for you. It's exactly my vibe. I mean, I was instantly sold when I saw that trailer. That after the first 10 seconds, I just put my fingers in my ears and I looked down and I said, I'm going to go see that in theaters. So hopefully, if you heard all that action and the terrifying music, if you liked that, you'll know you'll like this movie.
Any movie where they talk about Satan is in it has my attention because I think of Exorcist right away.
This is what they would call like exploitation, grindhouse, splattercore.
And it's got a great cast.
Of course.
It's got Malfoy in it.
This cast is not the biggest names, but it's such great pools of other movies that you love. So you just mentioned Draco.
Right.
That's Tom Felton from the Harry Potter movies.
Right.
When you see him, you go, what the heck is Draco doing in this? And then you have Zazie Beetz. She's the main actress who kicks all the butt. She was in the Deadpool movies and the TV show Atlanta.
Okay.
And then there is the Patricia Arquette.
Yeah.
And she was in True Romance. She's now in that Severance show. So if you
She
see
related to Peter?
She's related to the whole Arquette clan.
Right. Rosanna and
David, yeah,
David,
all those people.
Yeah, sorry, Courtney Cox's ex-husband.
Now, this movie, it's inspired in both ways that you would use the word. It's inspired as in the director absolutely loves Quentin Tarantino. You'll notice as soon as you see this, he's just pulling from Tarantino in the hardest way. So if you love the Kill Bill movies,
I was going to say, that means it's a weird movie. All Quentin Tarantino movies are weird to me.
And and when you see the movie, it's also got a Wes Anderson feel, the way he shows this big hotel in a diorama way. You'll notice the Wes Anderson influences, like Grand Budapest Hotel. But it's also inspired in that, I mean, this thing is so creative.
Okay.
It's so bloody and so gory, but in the most creative ways. The things that really caught me immediately were some of the physics in the fighting. This woman, she kicks someone in the shin, and that person goes flying forward and then breaks their neck, and they're dead. And just like the way they fall, the wire fighting that you'll see sometimes in kung fu movies, where someone gets hit and then they just fly across the room.
Looks very fake.
They got that stuff. People get cut in half clean, and then there's just blood everywhere. It's so creative.
All right.
And you have to think, is this movie for me just based on that description? If you like that sort of stuff, I think you will like it.
All right.
Nice.
And I was really confused by that casting because they die instantly at the beginning of the movie. Like, you see Draco die, and you're like, what? Why would you cast him? And then you realize, these people are immortal. So they keep coming back to life, and you get to see them die over and over again. If they get splattered and their body parts all over, they somehow just come back. Or like in Beetlejuice, like a head will just start growing. Like if someone gets decapitated, their little head will start growing bigger and bigger throughout the movie. So even that is just so much fun. I can't believe that they were able to pull off an R rating with this. If you think back to Kill Bill 2003, there's a scene in that with the crazy 88s.
Right.
This woman is attacked by 88 people, and they actually had to make that black and white to avoid the NC-17 rating. I don't get at all how this pulled off an R rating, because there are like eyeballs crawling across the screen, and people get their hands and their arms cut off. So just be amazed by that somehow it got so cartoonish to these censors. They're like, no one will think this is that gory and graphic. I give They Will Kill You 4 out of 5 toaster raviolis.
Nice.
This was so much fun. The ending is insane that it's worth the price of admission alone. The way that they personify this satanic creature, your jaw will be on the floor. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. But I don't watch a lot of anime and manga. I think some of the inspiration is pulled from that. You know, there's this thing called Chainsaw Man where a guy has a chainsaw for a head, and it kind of made me think, I bet that's what this is like. And then there's this other one called Death Note where there's like ghosts, and they put names into this book, and you die if your name's in it or something like that. I'm sure it's inspired by that, but I'm not much of an anime or manga guy.
Joey, for me, a good horror movie is when I get home, I'm kind of looking out of the windows to make sure nothing's under the bed or something's lurking outside the house. Is it scary in that respect?
I mean, maybe. Yeah, because when this girl shows up, she is being chased by people in robes. And just seeing someone in a robe nowadays, I'd be terrified instantly.
But it was entertaining, too.
It was so entertaining. And one of my favorite movies of all time is Boogie Nights. If you see the logo that I use for Joey V's movies, it's just a straight ripoff of the Boogie Nights poster. And so Roller Girl is in this, too. Heather Graham, you probably know her better.
Heather Graham. I was thinking of somebody else. But
yeah, you probably know her better from the Austin Powers movie. But it's so cool seeing her still look beautiful as ever. I don't want to come off as a lecher. I'm not a pervert. Every day I tell Chris, quit complimenting the women that we work with.
Right.
But this Zazie Beetz, she is just beautiful. She's one of the most beautiful black women I've ever seen. And she is in her underwear with bare feet and a wet T-shirt, just cutting people down with a machete. And if you're into that, you're going to love this movie.
Should we have warned like anybody that has little kids in the car listening before we got to that point?
No, I don't think so. They know that it gets dark at 5:45. So another reason I love this movie, it was part of this Marcus Mystery Mondays. I went to Marcus Theaters, and they don't even tell you what the movie is. They just say, show up, it's only $6, sit in the seat, and we'll show you something cool. So that sort of surprise was fun as well for me. You know I love a good deal. You give me a $6 movie, I'll go see it.
Okay, so that is They Will Kill You. Joey gives it 4 out of 5 stars.
Toasted
raviolis. I'm sorry, I screwed it up this week.
No, it's always fun.
Joey says that it is very gory, but it is entertaining as well. So
90 minutes too. Chris
90 minutes. That's within my time frame.
Yeah.
Anything that's 2 and 2.5 hours, I can't do it. Jim, one thing that I talked to Joey about, and you and I are roughly the same age.
Right.
I don't remember this many horror movies coming out during a season. I mean, used to, like, for a while there weren't any coming out. Now there's been 4 or 5 horror movies that Joey has reviewed in the last 3 months.
They
at
all
least.
come out in cycles. Like, I mean, I remember like our high school era. You know, you had all the Jasons,
Evil
you had the
Dead,
Halloweens. The first Halloween we were probably middle school, and then the Halloweens
1978.
came out. Yeah. By the way, I did think of a Twins movie, the twinning thing. There were 2 Truman Capotes. One was with Philip Seymour Hoffman that came out at the same time. One was about him. One was about the murder in Nebraska.
In Cold Blood book.
In Cold Blood. And there was a biopic that kind of came out at the same time.
You're so right.
2 different studios.
Joey V's movies, They Will Kill You, 4.5 toasted wraps. So if you want to see a good slasher flick, that is the movie to go. Before we get out here, Mr. Gwinner, you had some shout-outs that you wanted to do?
First of all, I want to say thanks to you, Chris, and Joey, thanks to you. I love coming out here every so often. I missed him. I loved him. Big shoes to fill. But I would be remiss if I didn't shout to my friends, the Deplorables. It's a group about 70 of us that are out and about.
They're not Hillary Clinton supporters.
No.
Okay.
You know, our little Facebook chat group kind of started because we were called a basket full of deplorables. Okay. It's evolved. They're all involved. They're probably all at work doing different things right now. But I always love giving a shout out to them and all my friends that are listening out. And thank you very much for having me as a guest. I really appreciate it.
That is Jim Gwinner. I'm Chris Arps. That's Joey V. He just did Joey V's movies. They Will Kill You. You've been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great weekend.
Hey there, News Talk friends. Chris Cooper here, your financial friend with Serenity Wealth Management. Joining us in the Serenity Wealth Now studio this weekend, we have special guests Ken and Jen with the Showcase Lawn and Landscaping Company. We're going to talk a little bit about the nutrients your lawn needs to have a successful and thriving season this